Hi, I'm Zeff, Managing Director of Tesoro Resources on the Australian Stock Exchange. We're developing the Zorro Gold Project in Chile, where we're currently drilling away, expanding our gold resource.
Zeff, good to see you, mate. I saw you back in beginning of October. You told me then that you might be putting out a resource by the end of this year. Are you going to do it?
Hi, Matt. No, I don't think we are going to do it. And for the simple reason is that Tenera, the deposit we're drilling at our Zorro, just keeps growing. So got a lot more drilling work ahead of us. But, foot's still firmly planted, drilling away. But the more we drill, just the bigger it's getting. And our most recent announcement, I guess, really underlines the sort of scale that we're doing there. We've added another 400 metres of strike with a couple of extensional holes. We've got a lot of infill drilling to do, and we're seeing some big extensions in the high grade zones as well within the actual deposit. So plenty more drilling to do, and it really gives us a material increase in scale with some additional drilling. So we'll probably just suck it and see where it lands. But it'd be nice to get something out by the end of Q1 next year. But again, it just comes down to size ultimately.
Well, let's talk about that, because I think the market can punish you a little bit because you didn't come back with your first your main resource at over 1 million ounces. You came at whatever it was, 660-ish ounces. There's an expectation. It wasn't met. Market disappointed. Do you feel with this, I know I saw the release that you're talking about, you got some really high grade stuff in there, significantly higher than you've been drilling to date. Do you think that gives you permission to delay it to the end of Q1 or beyond? Or do you think you still need to just get that 1 million ounce resource or updated resource out there?
We need permission for anything. I think it's a different question. I think the question is internally, what do we need to make us want to develop the project? And, the words that we use internally is critical mass for the resource size. And, considering the location of the project and the excellent metallurgy and all those things, how many ounces do we think we need to warrant pushing this through the feasibility study? And, I think I've said before, our ambition is to get something up around that 100,000 ounce per annum production mark, which means you probably need 1.5 or better in resource. So how big is it going to be? Still don't know, but, there's certainly been massive growth in the deposit since we made that maiden resource announcement, keeping in mind that we've drilled now another 120 odd holes into it.
So these high grade results came from the outstanding assays from around the time of the maiden resource that you weren't able to kind of get in there. Is that right? Or is this from new drilling?
No, this is all new drilling. So in that maiden resource, there was 145 holes, I think, used up until more or less the day that was released. And now we've drilled 260 something holes, but we've received assays for an additional 80 odd holes since then that we've been releasing to the market continuously. And look, all of those press announcements have had some exceptional drill results in them. And what we're saying is that within the deposit itself, there's a number of higher grade zones, and these are big. So they're, 20 or 30 metres wide. They're over 750 metres long. They've been drilled down to 400 metres deep. And we've actually been drilling underneath a couple of them. And this most recent release, we had a good high grade hit, 100 metres underneath anything that's been previously done. So this thing's just growing with depth, growing along strike. And we've got a new discovery out in Tenera East, which is up in the hanging wall of the main deposit, which will be really important for us as well in terms of economics, because it means that all that material that was once in a barren pit wall now has some gold in it.
So it's quite interesting to me the way that you have decided or feel confident enough to delay it, right? Because if the drill results that had come back had been more of the same, would you have decided to put out a resource? Or was the fact that it's higher grade has given you extra impetus and confidence to actually say, well, hang on a sec, this could be much more valuable than we realized, and therefore delaying it? So I don't have bang on about this, but I just think it's really important in terms of the psyche of what you think you've got here.
I think it just comes back to that, base strategy that I've spoken to about before, which is, the team of people and we see in front of us is a project which has got a high probability of going through to production. And that was what Tesoro was always set up to do. So we want to achieve a deposit size at the grades that we have that warrants and ticks those economic hurdles, meets those economic hurdles to go into production. So, at the grades that we have, to get to that sort of 80, 100,000 ounce production level, you want to be having a 1.5 million ounce plus deposit. If we get there, that's not to say that what we've got isn't mineable already, but that's what our internal targets are. And we don't know where the end of the deposit is. We just stepped out 400 metres and we're hitting solid gold results. So, that rolls off the tongue pretty easily. But in this deposit, it's 700 metres wide in places as well. So to drill another 400 metres of strike length out, it's a lot of drilling. And we think there's a lot of ore to add into that resource with that additional drilling, and it will make a material difference or a step change difference to the scale of the project. And we'll step out again and we're hoping we'll hit some more of the same. So whether this is a 1.5, a 2 million ounce, a 3 million, 5 million ounce deposit, we don't know. And there's also the potential to add resources from additional deposits. We're seeing the rocks that host Tenera over a much larger distance now. Our teams have been out in the field doing some mapping and sampling, and we're finding that system extends a long way to the north.
Yeah, and I want to talk about Toro Gordo and Toro Blanco and Joan Hill, etc. in a minute. But so I'm just. We talked in the past previously about the North American model of drill this thing out till you find the edges of the envelope, as it were. The Aussie model of, get it into production as quickly as possible. Then it's a more anti-dilutory approach to it, but maybe the money's a bit more expensive at the beginning because projects don't have that kind of scale initially, and that was a great discussion here. But and I kind of felt that that was what you were kind of toying with and thinking about here. But now you're talking about continuing to drill. You've raised, have you completed the 7.3 million capital raise? Because I know you're doing.
We've done the placement component of it,
right?
And
the SPP coming up.
Share purchase plan actually closed yesterday. It'll be announced tomorrow. But obviously that struggled to get away due to the share price being below the issue price of those shares. But that's okay because we've got a fairly strong treasury anyway. And with that placement money, we've still got 3 months to place any shortfall out of that share purchase plan as well. So look, we're well funded, and we're certainly funded for the work that we want to do. And look, just going back to your question, I think this is, I come back to it, the critical mass of the deposit. We want to get the resource to a size that we can then put economics around it that make those economic hurdles to make a decision to mine. And look, we're well on the way to that, obviously. And, I don't think because we announce the next resource and that's what we do the economics on that we'll ever stop drilling. If it's still open in all directions, we'll continue to add back into that resource. But I think, we need to approach that critical mass. We're probably not far off it. Given the recent results, we think that we can add a lot more to this.
It was a funny year this year and last for slightly different reasons. In like the normal rules don't seem to apply, certainly for precious metals anyway. So have you had to sort of adjust your thinking or expectations around what you believe catalyst moments are, or what you need to deliver into the market are? It used to be 1 million ounce, great. Maybe now it's 2. So what did you notice this year which was different from your experience?
I think that the big thing is that I guess suppose in the general market, and regardless whether it's metals in general, commodities in general, equities in general, volatility and general choppiness, I suppose you could call it. But there's certainly a decoupling of your traditional things that go hand in hand, whether one goes up and one goes down, or vice versa. Those traditional relationships seem to have broken a little bit. And, what I mean by that is things like, gold price and bond yields and, interest rates and inflation and all of these sorts of things are sort of not moving how people expect. And I think some of the world's banks are probably struggling because their levers don't work as well as they perhaps used to, or react in the way that they thought they might. So, who knows what's going to happen next year? All I know and how we view the world here is that we've got a, long-term view to get this into production at a low production cost. And when I say that, I think it's a throwaway line for everybody, but it's sub $1,000 an ounce sort of production cost. So if the gold price is $1,500, $1,200, $1,300, we're still making money and still in business and still going well. And, a mine and getting a mine into development a medium to long-term process. So these blips in the market are entertaining to watch sometimes, but I guess they don't affect the overall trajectory of where we're going, what our view of the world is.
So you haven't sort of had to adjust the way that you come at this. I mean, obviously, precious metal share prices have been deflated for the past, I guess, 6 months, since the middle of the year. I don't think your chart's much different from most precious metal charts at the moment. But in terms of your mentality is, look, this is a longer term play. We're not going to look at the dips in the market. We've got to do what we can do, hence you raised money when you did.
We can see massive value in this project, and it's got plenty more value to give. And I think I've touched on that with resource growth and taking it through into production and all of those things. So it really is just a matter of getting our head down and, pushing through all of those, market fluctuations that are on a monthly basis or whatever they are.
But you see, the thing that you've done is by pushing out the, a resource update, which you need to do, plus $1 million. We've talked about it ad infinitum. You need to do that soon, because people want you to start putting some economics on this. Because it's all well and good you saying, hey, we think we can be 100,000 ounce a year producer here. Hey, we think we can be sub 1,000 ounce ASIC producer here. People are going to want you to start putting labels on those things and back it up with studies and so forth. But there's the slight change or slight change in confidence, like positive.
So I don't think it's a massive change. I think it's a slight delay because there's potentially a material change in the scale of the project, and it's just getting big. So before we might have been looking at a scale where, we can probably drill that out by the end of the year and get a resource update out. And we went and we've probably finished that drilling now, and we've done some more step outs and gone, okay, well, we've got to keep drilling then, because this is going to add a whole bunch more material, which is going to materially affect the scale and the economics of this project. I mean, at the end of the day, the takeaway is it's getting big. So we need to drill it, and I think it's all in our shareholders and our own best interest to drill it and see that resource gets to the size that we think it can.
So talk to me about the money that you got. You had about, I guess, at the end of Q3, $7 million. You've raised, or you've certainly done 4 of the 7.3 or something near that.
Yeah.
So you got a chunk of change, which you're going to put 100% into Tenera, and we're going to Torre Blanco, Torre Gordo, Tenera East, Drone Hill. That all happens later. Is that the plan?
No, so we've actually been doing some initial drilling at Drone Hill and Torre Blanco. We haven't got assays back for those holes yet. And the other thing that we've been doing is the last 3 months or so, our geological teams have been doing some more district scale exploration, which is mapping and sampling and so on. And they're getting pretty excited because that's going really well, and we've extended. So the rocks that host Tenera, we've now mapped them for about 5 kilometres north of Tenera.
Right.
So right up north past Torre Blanco. They look like they should have gold in them. So we're rolling out a big surface sampling program as well. So, that comes back to probably what I've said in previous interviews. We think this is a new gold district for Chile. It's certainly starting to get a pretty serious footprint about it as well. And I think if people have a look at our most recent presentation, there's actually a satellite image in there which shows some alteration of what we think in a colour in one of those SAT images, which shows a 20-kilometre prospective zone. So we're just starting to nibble away at the southern parts of that. We've moved into the next valley north. We're seeing the same rocks again, potentially with gold in them. So we've got a fair bit of work there to do, but it's certainly getting pretty exciting in terms of, ability to produce more gold deposits in this ground package.
Okay, so what percentage of the remaining capital that you've got is going to go into Tenera in terms, or rather, I rephrase, what percentage is going to go into this resource expansion, which you can put in the next update?
Yeah, so at the moment, around about 90% of our capital will go into Tenera, and that includes scoping studies. So we're not just drilling away, we've already commenced a lot of the scoping study work, because obviously internally stuff that we can't speak to the market about yet, we're working on. So as soon as that resource update comes out, that'll have a higher proportion of indicated material in it too, that we can we can use for scoping work. We'll have all of our detailed metallurgical work would have been back in our hands by then as well. And we'll have a scoping study out in pretty short order as soon as that next resource update's out.
Okay. And with regards to, so what altitude are you at? Sorry, I've forgotten.
Oh, we're low. So 600 metres up to about 800 max.
Okay, so and you're obviously nearer the coast than some of the higher.
Yeah, we're only 15 kilometres inland.
Yeah.
So,
okay. And have you seen any of these kind of supply chain issues or even access to simple things like water? Quite frankly, is that all accessible to you?
Not in Chile. One thing that we've just started to notice. So in Australia, there's been this exploration boom, and there's been constraint around labour and professionals and drill rigs and even the consumables on the drill rigs. We haven't started to see that bite into the Chile exploration industry or the minerals industry like it has in Australia, but we're just starting to see some tightness in some of those areas. So we're starting to see certainly some wage growth for professionals. We're starting to see a little bit of delay around things like assays, and also delay in supply of some of our consumables like core trays and bags and all those sorts of things. But I did have we did investigate getting some plastic core trays from Australia sent over to Chile, because they don't have plastic ones in Chile. They use wood, which don't last forever. And the shipping cost was extravagant, and the shipping time was unknown. So that's probably more of an indictment on the international conditions rather than Chile itself. So, look, we haven't had direct impact on our operations for Chile. So, we're going okay at the moment, but certainly things have cranked up a bit in terms of activity.
Okay, interesting. Obviously, an election's done and dusted. People can sort of understand the lay of the land.
Well, it's not done and dusted. They're into the second round of so it's down to the socialist candidate and the conservative candidate, and that's on the 16th of December. But the Conservatives have got control of the Senate, so if the Socialist gets in, probably nothing much will happen.
Well, that's my point. The kind of slightly wilder claims, accusations, and around being able to do business and being able to mine in Chile seems to have settled down. Is kind of what I was referring to.
Yeah, look, we don't expect there's going to be any sort of major changes for certainly the next electoral cycle. So. It's all the more motivation to define and build a gold mine during that time.
Yeah. Okay. Also, just a couple of thoughts from people who, thank you very much to everyone who's written in. Just clarification, because 90% is going to Tenera in terms of the budget. With regards to Tenera East, I think it's been stated that over 600 meters of strike and open in all directions. Remind me again, what are you going to be doing at Tenera East specifically?
Well, we've got what looks like not a huge, but certainly a consistent gold zone there.
Right.
And so that sits in the pit wall of the optimized pit shell for Tenera.
Right.
So we haven't modelled it yet, but it's starting to hang together really well, and it's always there. And we've defined it. We've drilled it over 800 metres along that pit wall now, and so all of a sudden that changes the stripping ratio for the main pit because the waste material is getting converted to ore now.
Right. And so the idea being that
quite encouraged by that.
You're encouraged by it, but you haven't done enough work, and you're not planning to do enough work to be able to bring that into the resource update, are you?
It'll probably end up in some of the update because it's basically the same deposit.
Right.
We're finding it's all connected, and it'll all be in the same pit.
Okay.
So
some of that will make it in.
I think it's going to make a pretty major impact on the economics of the pit as well. And the other encouraging thing is wherever we see those rocks, they've got gold in them. And where we've drilled them at Tenera East, and it's highly predictable zone, they've come back with decent results. So, it'd be nice to find some wider zones of that. And we think we're onto some, particularly up in the north of the main Tenera deposit with that recent announcement. And, there's plenty more drilling to do up in that direction as well. So, look, I haven't worked on a project like this before. The more we drill, the bigger it gets. It hasn't got a hard and fast boundary. We haven't found the edges of it. We're on to a potentially, very large system. More work that we do in the district, the bigger it gets. All the indicators are there. There's, further growth to be had. And in the meantime, we've got a pretty attractive gold deposit sitting in the middle of the whole thing.
Okay. There's more. There's like an interview roundup, but also looking into 2022. Are you given a sense of what you're going to be aiming at in 2022 with regards to the resource update? What else should we expect to see from you? Obviously,
so we'll get that scoping study out in fairly short order, straight after the resource, and that'll be the impetus just to roll straight through into feasibility. So if things all go to plan by the end of next year, early 2023, we'd probably be coming close to end of feasibility. With a final investment decision, start looking at funding to build a mine.
Okay, so it still remains. You want to do this rapidly as you can.
Yeah, absolutely. There's access to capital, and we're obviously in a high gold price. When I say high gold price, I used to work in a gold mine here in Western Australia that was 1,500 metres deep, and the gold price was $350 an ounce. So I don't know what your view is, but I think we're going to be above 1,700 for quite some time and potentially years. And that's a pretty healthy gold price.
I'm happy where it's at, quite frankly. If you're producing gold at today's prices, you're ecstatic. So, who knows where it'll get to, but I think the general indications are very positive. I think there's going to be a lot of people talking about and pushing gold. Let's see how the equities benefit from that in 2022. Look, Zeff, I appreciate the end of your catch-up, really do. Pleased for you on the drilling and increasing grades. Well done on that one. More importantly, I'm eagerly looking forward to the resource update when it comes through.
Yep, I think we all are, and hopefully everyone will be pleasantly surprised.